a high-level description about why we're all here. And the conscious capitalism is a global movement. And before we welcome Alisa and Ricky, I just want to give you a little bit of a background as to what it's all about. Number one, we believe that conscious capitalism is based on it's good for business because capitalism as a system has been responsible for lifting more people out of poverty than any other. So it works. We know it's ethical because it's based on an exchange between two parties. It's noble because it can elevate our existence, and it really lifts people out of poverty. So it has some of the heroic elements to it. But, and here's the big but, we have major problems with it as it stands, so we really have to rebuild the system as we know it. The conscious capitalism part, we've got 4 tenets or principles. First one is that sure, you've got to make a profit, no doubt about that, but you've got to do it with a strong sense of purpose that is beyond profit. You do it with a healthy culture, so you believe in servant leadership, and you really look at a multi-stakeholder perspective, not just the shareholders, which was the earlier version of capitalism that has so disappointed many. But the best part about it is if you do all that, then you really shine in terms of business results as well. So it's not just about feeling good, it's about getting those results. Conscious Capitalism is a global brand. We've got 50 chapters nationally, internationally, including all of these folks' logos here, so you know you're in good company. Bringing it down to the local movement, we were founded in 2016, and we're a growing community of over 1,600 people that know that business can do better. And we are sponsored by the Regional Water Authority and the Chamber. We're also prolific social media creators and sharers. Thanks, Ali, who's on the call today, who's doing a wonderful job of creation and circulation of all these stories, including our speakers today. We do have a great podcast series called Curious Capitalists, of which both Alisa and Ricky will be very near future guests to explore their story. And I just want to give you a little bit of a understanding as to how we arrived at this today. And I grew up in Australia, and I traveled a lot in the outback and really had a lot of time with the Indigenous Australians. And then I was reading our history books written by the white men, and there wasn't a good connection there. So I really revealed, a lot of flaws in the education that I got, and really came to the understanding that in Australia there's this establishment of white supremacy that wasn't really serving particularly the Indigenous community. So I've, in the last 20 years, been decolonizing my book collection to be better educated on all of those things. And then, of course, coming out to the US, and most recently with COVID, we've realized that, white supremacy still has a lot of work to do. And so we, at Conscious Capitalism, I was invited on a very large sort of global leadership call, and I realized that there wasn't many faces of minorities on there either. So I made the mistake of telling them so, and of course I was invited to join the advisory board as a result of that, which is not what I wanted. But it was just more evidence to me that we really need to get minorities to the table to talk about the best way that they can improve their lives is to really engage more within the business community, which is what conscious capitalism is all about. So I really want to just use that to kind of set it up today and welcome Alisa Bowens-Mercado, who I met some time back when she launched her Rhythm Brewing brand, and Ricky Evans, who is here to talk about his wonderful barbecue experiences here. And we really just wanted to hand it over to them, and just perhaps they could help us understand their journey as being minority-owned business people, and really open it up to the group here today. So I will stop my screen share and happy to hand it over to Alisa Bowens-Mercado. Welcome, thank you for taking the time out today. Tell us a story, because you've got so many good ones.
Oh, thank you so much, Glenn and Eleanor, for this this invite. And I think these conversations are truly necessary and needed, and potentially really pivotal during these times. I I have a fun story. And anytime you can say fun in this kind of day and age, because things could not be fun, but anytime I'm salsa dancing and continuing to brew beer and still have a mission and a passion to hopefully inspire folks who might not have that same mindset, then it's just great to be able to speak to folks, you know, out there who might just be, you know, doing the same thing. But my name is Alisa, Bowens-Mercado. A lot of you live in New Haven know me as the Salsa lady. I own Alisa's House of Salsa. We are celebrating 20 years this year. I would have never thought that I'd be celebrating my 20th anniversary this way. I have no dance students in the studio. I'm salsing literally by myself, usually through Zoom classes. But you know what? Again, we've made those changes, the necessary changes, and we're continuing to dance. Just recently, well, about 5 years ago, I got into brewing. I became a brewer. For a couple of reasons. I looked at the industry and immediately knew that there were not a lot of women, and there were really no people of color in this industry. And I will tell you, I was a beer drinker. This is going back probably when I was 2 years old, and my grandmothers would drink those little ponies of Miller High Life. And so I thought those were the cutest little bottles. And so it wasn't a baby bottle. It was like a beer bottle. But my mom said I always just asked for this, that thing. I wanted that. So there's a picture of me captured on the potty. Probably about 18 months. No beer in the bottle, of course. But just really, I think I was destined to get into this. But moving forward 2 years ago to the launch of Rhythm Brewing Company, after research, after knowing that there was a lack of people being underserved in the industry, and the huge financial information that I found out in this business, in the beer business, I knew it was time for me as a female and time for me as a woman of color to really take control and make a much needed and necessary change. Anything that's doing $114 billion annually, and I said billions, I didn't say millions, annually in beer, and people of color and women are getting less than 0.0005% of that, it just didn't make sense to me. So I am hoping through my beer mission that I can create economic wealth, and especially in employment opportunities. So just like Budweiser has a factory or Corona has a factory, I want a factory where I'm going to make sure that we're brewing great beer, but we're employing and giving back to the communities. And so that in a nutshell is who I am. And so resident of Connecticut, most of my life, went to college in Boston at Northeastern, grew up in Bethany, a little town, Bethany, outside of New Haven, but it's just great to be here to say hello and, you know, kind of share with you for the hour.
Thank you so much, Alisa. And Ricky, you've lived all over different places and have been in Connecticut since when?
I've been in Connecticut for about 7 years now.
Awesome. And can you give us a little sense of your place? You want to walk us through your location at Science Park there?
Oh yeah, sure. So my barbecue restaurant, the address is 302 Winchester Ave, located in New Haven. If y'all don't mind, I'm gonna flip my screen around just so y'all can get a sense of where I'm at.
We're gonna walk the walk that Blumenthal did yesterday when he visited Ricky at his restaurant.
Yes. So y'all just let me know if I lose your signal, because I'm stepping away from the restaurant, so I might lose Wi-Fi. I'm not gonna step out too far. But across the street, these are the Winchester Lofts. Right down here, that big building, that's 25 Science Park, that has pre-COVID roughly around 600 employees that work from there. Now I think we're down to about 50, give or take. Down the street down here, you can't see because of all of the trees and everything, but those are also more office space, a lot of pharmaceutical medical companies are down there. I think they have a few, but nowhere near as many people are there now than what there were pre-COVID. And the Yale Medical Department, they actually just opened up a office over there that starting January 2020, they brought about 350 to 400 new employees. Now I don't think they're even over there anymore, except maybe a handful. So this is the sign, sidewalk sign, where people can see where we're at. This is outside the restaurant. I'm one of 3 tenants here. Down there at the end of the building, there's a CrossFit. On this end around the building, there is a coffee shop called Fuzzy Coffee. And then my little rib shack right here. So when you walk in, this is the dining room. I set my little office up right here. So that's my little office. We normally seat about 32 people here, but now we're not doing any dine-in service. We're only focusing on takeout, pickup, ordering online, and delivery through Uber Eats. Yeah, we're doing a la carte catering. Our on-site catering has died down. We haven't done any on-site catering, and usually by this time we've done at least, I don't know, probably at least 30 by now. Don't bite your fingers. Every day's a cookout. That's kind of like our little slogan here. I'm gonna flip the camera back around now.
I remember talking to you on a day when Yale had come in and bought like hundreds of gift cards for people to give out as employee appreciation, right? Because everybody really appreciated being able to come in and get some of that food.
Yeah, right before the Yale Medical Department decided to move across the street in one of those buildings over there. They came in and they bought like 180 something gift cards. That was like, I think it was like $5-10 a person. And that right there was before they even moved anything in yet. So, I mean, that was real appreciative to show that, you know, they're moving in and trying to support the local businesses, small business, and it was greatly appreciated. So
you have your restaurant, the catering, and then the online business, right?
Correct.
And
yeah, we have the restaurant. Folks call in, place their order for pickup. They can come in, they can place their order while they're here and wait, 15 minutes. We'll have your order ready. Customer can go online to the website to place their order, and we deliver through Uber Eats, and we do a la carte catering.
And you sell the bottles of sauce and ship them, right?
Yep, we make our own barbecue sauce. This is it right here. I created my own style of barbecue. It's called Kansalana barbecue. So it's that combination between the sweet, savory taste of Kansas City barbecue and the vinegar Carolina style. And I also got my own dry rub. This is what we season all our meat with. We smoke everything right here in house. I currently have the sauce and dry rub in about 8-9 different big Ys, and a couple other little local T&J supermarket, P&M, and a couple other little local markets around town.
Well, it's really cool that you both physically like make stuff and have put your own, flavors out into the world. I wonder, if there were things that you saw in your industry that other people were doing that you said to yourself, okay, that's what they're doing. I'm going to do something very different.
Right.
Yeah.
So what was your sort of declaration like that?
So like just thinking back, like when I first started, it was just like, I had probably about 8 of the different seasonings that I like. I line them up and I'd take a slab or whatever meat I'm prepping at the time, and I would season it with each slab. Each piece of each seasoning, I would season it. And then, but then I got to the point to where I wanted to look into bottling my dry rub, bottling the sauce, even the sauce. I mean, I would just mix something in the pot, use it by eye, and not really measure or weigh out each individual ingredient. And then when I decided I wanted to start bottling the sauce, I bottled the sauce before the dry rub. When I started the sauce, I measured each individual ingredient. And then I started just bottling it myself, ordering the bottles, ordering the shrink wrap, ordering the tops, ordering the labels, and hand doing everything for myself. So I was making sauce for the restaurant at the time, and also making sauce to bottle individually to sell, like when I go to different farmers markets and stuff like that. And then I got to the point where I'm like, okay, I need to improve the product. So I ended up getting in contact with a local co-packer on a Frios right in New Haven. And I stopped in there and I had a talk with them and tried to understand like really how their process is, because this was my first time ever using a co-packer. You basically give them the ingredients to your sauce. And of course you sign, do not disclose your waivers that they can't go around telling everybody your recipe. And then they do everything right there. So in the long run, it saved a lot of time. And that was big. So now when I go to farmers markets, or if I'm selling sauce online, or if somebody come in to the restaurant and want a bottle of sauce, it's already made. I have inventory, grab it, pay for it, go. And rather than, I got to make some more sauce. We don't have any bottles left, So that's pretty much the quick journey. And then I started on the dry rub. And then when I bottled the dry rub, it's also another local co-packer. I forget what town they're in, but it's called the Spice Mill. And they actually, whatever rub, whatever season that you want to use, they can make it right there at their plant.
Well, you had a collaboration, right, Alisa, that enabled you to get your product to market. And so maybe you could talk about that as well as the way you wanted to do things differently from what you had seen.
Yeah, I will tell you, I did nothing when I came into the industry. I did nothing that anybody else in the beer industry was doing. First of all, everybody was building a brewery, and I said, I'm not building a brewery, I'm building a brand. Let me build a brand. Let's see how the product moves. Everybody was making an IPA. Now, don't forget, an Indian Pale Ale. If you guys are not familiar, I'll give you a little beer terminology. Everyone in New England was making a New England IPA. It's like 8.9 ABV. They're bitter. They're just heavy, heavy, heavy beers. And so everybody was running to the IPA that way. And I said, you know what? I said, I'm making a lager. I need to bring back a normal tasting beer, a product, something that I felt in my brain was just normal. So they call me Lady Lager. So I make lagers. Everybody had a wooden tap handle. Oh, no, I wasn't doing that. My tap handles are LED lit. So as soon as you walk in to a bar or a restaurant, COVID, Ricky has had our beer on tap. You are literally, that's the first thing that you would see was our LED lit tap handle. I wanted someone to say, what is that? What is that lit up? So thank you. Yes, there's there's the tap handle.
I got you right here.
Thank you, Ricky. There's a tap handle. And I will tell you, Ricky will tell you, it's a conversation piece, because if not, the beer is good, trust me, but for nothing else, if you're in a crowded bar and people are yelling over you and the waitress can't hear you, people go, just give me that thing that is lit up. I'll take 2 of them. And so the branding and the marketing, it worked. They said, I didn't have $2 million to build a brewery. I didn't even have $200,000 to build the brand. I said, so I had to literally kind of grassroots, this entire process. So I did literally everything different. I was like, I'm in New England. People are like, dude, you're crazy. You're making a lager in New England. And I'm like, dude, no, I'm not really crazy, because people want lagers. Lagers need to come back. So I think 5 years ago, I think I knew I was getting a little ahead of the curve with people in New England. So I leaped out there. And then I was the only one that would show up to a brewery with a mini heel on, because people know my salsa dancing. I can't really walk in flats and in sneakers. So I'd be the only, brewer there with like a little heel on. They're like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do with her? But I basically, when I came into the industry, I wanted to do, I researched it so much that I wanted to do things different. And we've been 2 years in, and 408 accounts already in Connecticut. The brand is surging. There's a national demand for it now, but we've created a buzz, but we are bringing lagers back. And like we say, the new taste of lager. And right now, the country needs to find a new rhythm. And we always say, even if it's one sip at a time. So we're just always moving forward thinking, just right here in New Haven, grassroots. It's, that's how, it happens. Yeah, but sometimes you got to think out of the box, that you're in the box, and just completely just break down the box. So I think that's what we did.
Is there any experiment that?
Oh. Yeah.
Go ahead.
And I really admire your courage to sort of break into, the traditional brewing environment that, as far as I know, has been dominated by old white guys like myself. So I really admire the courage, tenacity, and the fact that you found a sort of a backdoor to say that didn't require huge amounts of capital. So you've totally sort of taken the opportunity and created a brand from nothing. As a branding guy, I applaud that because I know it's a heavy lift as well. Tell us a little bit about some of the sort of the pivot points or some of the challenges that you had to respond to, just as a way of encouraging other entrepreneurs to keep going, keep pushing. And you must mentor a lot of people, and there must be a few on the call today who look to you for that. So whatever you can tell us would be great.
I will tell you, I have kind of like 3 keys that I kind of live by. I always say, trace your potential. That's number 1. Then teach your promise. Teach yourself what you're promising yourself. And then trust your process. Those are key. Again, trace your potential, teach your promise, and trust your process. It's key for people who, i.e., when somebody says, oh, you know what, you can do something, later in life, or you tell a 20-something-year-old, right now is when, prime to get, your business started. No, I was 47 when I started brewing. So I waited. So you're never too old or young to really pivot into something that that you've thought about. You've thought about an idea a couple of times in your brain, and you go, oh, I don't have time to do that. That's the absolute industry or passion that you should get into, because there's something there that you're going to process. I might just take a little longer, but I will tell you that the great thing is when we jump on calls like this, for the first week of COVID, I will tell you, I got really well, I'm never really complacent, and my brain is always moving. But I was like, okay, what's going on? What are we going to do? And then that second week, the opportunities that were flying through the door, people were actually sitting home. They were researching. They were looking for things that they weren't looking for before. And they were seeking people out that they were not seeking out before. And that's when I knew it was time to really motivate myself, redirect, pivot, as some people say, but I just redirected, and I was taking advantage of all of the things that were not knocking and flying down my door before, i.e. being an African-American owned beer brand, and people wanted to support, and they wanted to know how they can support. So it was just taking this adversity and really wrapping it all up and figuring out how you're going to execute. That is absolutely what I did the second week into, COVID. And then the Black Lives Matter, that came about 2 months after, and that was another game changer. Unfortunately, the circumstances, but I would tell you, it just threw the company into more national, attention. Martha Stewart, a write-up in Martha Stewart, you've got a different demographic watching different brands and places and people. And because I think they see the despairing numbers of what we're not getting as Black-owned businesses. Because at the end of the day, small businesses really didn't get a lot through this, but then there was a side where minority-owned businesses really didn't get maybe what they needed to survive. So we had to, you know, do what we had to do.
You've got like three events to even just today, right? Like, is talking about a surge in interest.
Oh yeah, no, it's great. I mean, I was salsa dancing with New Haven Ballet for 3 hours, and then I did a wardrobe change because I've got to have a wardrobe change. And then I did T&H. I did an interview at 12:45. Then I was doing this, so I have to, you know, rearrange stuff. I got to get beer out here, and then I've got to go put on some corporate gear, and I'll be talking to the ladies at another business alliance. But it's for the cause. This is for everyone. I think this is when people need to share ideas. Thanks.
And you have a pivot story, Ricky?
Yeah, I had to say my biggest pivot was quitting my you know, the corporate job that I was working at. I spent about 4 years working in corporate America. After college, after I graduated from Virginia State University, and after spending 4 years in there, deciding that corporate America wasn't really for me. So that probably had to be one of the craziest pivots that I had to make by putting my notice in at the job, buying a food truck and starting my business from the food truck. And that was 7 years ago. So that was a huge pivot right there. You know, I operated off the food truck for a few years. You know, the food truck industry has a lot of pluses and minuses, advantages, disadvantages. It's good during the spring, summer months, even the fall, but then during the winter, who's stopping at the food truck? So I noticed early on in my endeavor that the food truck isn't necessarily a sustainable business model for the long term, because you lose out on so many different opportunities to build your business, because you know, half the fourth quarter you're closed because it's the winter time. First quarter is winter time, it's closed. Second quarter is not really all that, but it starts to get ramped up. People start to get ready for spring and the warmer months. But so another pivot, I had an opportunity to open up inside of a beer garden. So that was probably about, at this point, maybe 5 years ago. And a big pivot was to move from the food truck into the beer garden. Unfortunately, that relationship went sour after 6 months, and ended up in, they basically terminated the agreement effective immediately and violated a lot of the rights that I had. And so instead of like letting that intimidate me or anything, we ended up going to court, and I ended up getting them to settle. And so that was a big obstacle that I had to overcome. And now when it terminated, when we left the beer garden, it's like, you know, I have a staff, I think at the time, maybe like 7 employees. So it's like, now what happens to them? So from there, I ended up pivoting into the restaurant that I'm at now in Winchester. It just happened, the opportunity ended up opening up at the right time. And the opportunity opened up. This restaurant used to be a Chinese restaurant, and they ended up looking to get out of their lease, scale down to one location, and that they already had, and I pivoted in here. But when I'm, you know, running a restaurant is a lot different than working on the food truck, and because regardless if customers are coming in, you know, or not, bills gonna continue to come in, and then you still got staff, so you still got to pay them, keep the lights on, keep the gas on. Then you got to have inventory, because if you have no inventory, then you can't generate any revenue. So I would say that those is probably at least 3 big pivots that I had to make. Leaving corporate America, chasing a venture that I didn't know it was going to be successful or not. Never ran a restaurant. Anything like that. I just enjoyed backyard barbecues, family, friends, good times, good vibes, and decided to take a leap of faith. And just so happens we're still here, still in the game. And so corporate America, food truck, beer garden, Winchester storefront.
Well, I think you're great. You're both great examples of just finding your purpose, finding your passion, and just sticking to it, you know, because you, as Ricky's saying, corporate America wasn't really your thing. you know, so it's a question of, are you going to, yeah, you know, you've got an opportunity to create your own purpose or fade into the background of someone else's dreams, and you've both intentionally taken that pivot and said, nope, not doing that. And now it's great to see you both in your with, you know, successful brands launched, and not only that, but surviving what is a major, you know, global pandemic. So I don't know, Eleanor, are there any questions lined up there you want to share with the group?
Yes, in fact, there's a question about financing and whether each of you needed to get investors or line up financing in the beginning, and whether you you know, how you overcame any obstacles there.
I will tell you, I went to an angel investor, a good friend of my dad's. He was not keen on this beer thing at all. He said, Alisa, there's 5 million beers out there. What's going to make yours any different? What's the difference between an IP this, he goes, I don't even know what they call it, and a, you know, a Heineken and a Busch. He's like, but you know what? I did not give up. Every week, literally on Friday at 2 o'clock, I would send him 10 like links to like Brewhound or like Forbes and say the industry is booming. Because he was just like, well, is it really making, you know, any money? I'm like, well, look at what Budweiser is making. Look at what, you know, Corona is making. And so after like really, gently harassing him, I went back to him. He said, Alisa, I'll never forget it. It was a Thursday. He said, he goes, come and see me at my office. He calls me Alicia. Alicia, come and see me at my office. So I go, all right. I go see him at his office, and he said, listen, I'm going to give you your startup money. Now, when I say startup money, this is money that I had to literally work miracles with. It wasn't the startup money that most people think, oh, 50 grand, 100 grand, 125 grand. I got less than 20K, okay? But don't forget, I had to brew beer, I had to get labels, I had to brand, I had to do a lot of stuff. But I was still very grateful because, again, he was not really too keen on this beer thing. He handed me the check. I said, let me go prove you wrong. And from that day, I was on a serious mission. And I will tell you, I can call him. Usually he doesn't really pick up his phone. He owns cheese factories and prize grand, you know, horses that win the Preakness and all that stuff. And he's got, and he's my angel investor. But I said, let me go prove you wrong. And now I can call him and he picks up for me now, because it's one of those things where he goes, here, just take this and I want you to do well. And my thing was, no, let me go prove to you why I want to get into this. I want to get into the beer business, because there's none of us in the beer business running around, and I need to make a change. I need to make a difference. And right now he told me, he goes, oh, okay. He's like, he picks up the phone and we talk, and he cannot believe, I just think it was like the determination that I had to make sure that he knew that there's a reason why needs to be more people of color in a white male dominated industry. And he's a white male. I needed that to kind of sink in. But I got money, and I literally, I needed probably quadruple as much, but I took what I could, because convinced a bank was not, a business plan for a brewery. It was not something that they were even looking at. And I really, honestly, it was a blessing that in 2 years we're moving, along. And I can call him and get whatever I want when I want now. Still not a lot, but I can, we're moving towards the end goal.
Beautiful. Well, how about you, Ricky?
Yeah, so like I said, them 4 years that I spent in corporate America, I said to myself, okay, if I'm gonna put my notice in at my job, quit my job, my whole life, that's all you hear was people telling you graduate, you get your diploma. After you graduate from high school, you go to college, you get your degree, you go to you get you a job, You get your salary, you get your benefits, you get your Medicare, you get your dental, all of that. You get you a house, you get you a wife, you get you a dog. You know, so I followed all of that. I followed all of those steps, and then when I got to corporate America, I was like, you know, it wasn't really all what it was cracked up to be, from my opinion, and so I'm like, so once I decided that I did want to do this whole barbecue thing and get into entrepreneurship and buy a food truck, I started looking at my 401k. So those 4 years that I worked, I generated a few dollars, and I'm like, all right, so do I want to keep this in? Do I want to keep paying into my 401k or keep my 401k, or do and save it until I'm 65, and by the time I'm 65, I had to probably be 70 before I could touch it, and I don't even know if I'm even gonna live to even be 65, So I decided to take a risk, and I withdrew from my 401k. I ate whatever penalty I had to pay, and then I used that as a deposit for the food truck. So that's how I was able to purchase the food truck, and so, I mean, I didn't have like any, an investor or anything. I just kind of, withdrew from my 401k and just kind of like slowly been adding on blocks to the business and building the brand day by day, month by month, year by year.
Self-financed. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, a question came into me privately about community building and how you've, who you feel like your community is and how you're managing that. But we also have job opportunities, and what do you think any business owner can do as far as meaningful job opportunities to minority groups? So maybe those can go together. I don't know. Work for, job opportunities, community development.
I will. Oh.
Whoever wants to jump in first.
You can go ahead and go, Alisa.
Okay. I was going to say that, community building. Yesterday, I was at Two Roads, Brewing a Black is Beautiful collab. Two Roads is in Stratford, one of the biggest breweries here in New England. Probably, in the Northeast. It's Black is Beautiful. About 1,000 different breweries from around the country got together, and we're all brewing a stout. If anybody knows a stout, it's a darker beer. And I will tell you, for the community, what that has done, not only was I able to collab with Two Roads, one of my beer mentors, in the industry, but we have these candid conversations of Two Roads wants to now know, how can we get more people of color into the tap room? How can we employ more people of color to work in our tap room? How can we get more women brewing, Alisa? How can we get more people of color brewing? How can we get more women of color brewing? So it really, honestly, through adversity, it has opened the door to conversations that I don't think, to be very honest with you, they would have eventually happened. But with the climate in the country, these initiatives that are really bringing community together and introducing community to industries that, we are completely not, a part of. And so, I mean, that's how the question, it's about conversations that are going to lead to community action. And if it starts with a collaboration like that with Two Roads, which, by the way, on July 31st, we are launching and releasing the stout. So we'll have an in-brewery at Two Roads, pick up 12 o'clock, beer to go, and then a huge kind of like, release party, social distancing, of course, there. Yeah, we are very excited about that. We already have bets in the brew house that, some people say it's going to take 24 hours to sell out. Somebody else said 4 hours. But at the end of the day, they both go to two great charities. And that's what it's all about. So the Boys and Girls Club, and then Stratford Strong will get a portion of the proceeds. So those are things that make me feel good. So yes, these are conversations that can lead into community building.
Cool.
Great story. Yeah.
Ricky, community,
And the
anything
fact
on
that
community?
the fact that you've got traction in a nationally recognized brew house is, I think, a credit to your leadership. And now it's interesting that you've become a role model to others in the industry, which is something you may not have anticipated, but I think is an extraordinary outcome for both you and Ricky, that you're now considered role models, because that's, I've heard a lot about the minority business sort of role models. There aren't enough of them, and there are not, and the fact that you two have become such in the Connecticut community, I think is a great achievement for you both.
And that's what we hope for. So, and I think Ricky can, the same sentiment. I just pray every day that when I wake up, that I'm doing something to make a change, and I hope that I can inspire. And so that's why when I always say I'm on a mission, I really am, to make those changes. I believe I exist to be service of those who are underserved. So that's just, you know, I think Ricky again can, you know, attest to getting up and just hoping to inspire.
The article, Ricky, that talked about Blumenthal visiting you yesterday also talked about your work with the homeless and food insecurity, right? You want to talk about that program?
Yeah. So definitely post COVID, when COVID was happening, still is happening, but March and April was pretty much the worst 2 months. Pretty much, I'm sure everybody can pretty much say that. And then May started to pick up a little bit, and in June, we kind of peaked out at June. But I don't know, hopefully we're still in July. But so starting early May, I was able to work with the city and also a local organization called Square Meals. And what it did was I basically delivered a total of 55 meals between 2 separate locations, Monday through Friday. And it was like 50 meals one location and 5 meals to another location. And these locations is where they were testing the homeless for COVID-19. And they're also providing shoes, clothes, showers, masks, gloves, and doing something really good for the community. So me delivering those 55 meals Monday through Friday, not only was it good towards the bottom line, but it was also good because I was able to take some of the employees who I had, and I had to cut back their hours because March and April were so slow. So I was able to not only bring them off the bench, but also I was able to add a couple new employees for March and April. So I had about 5 employees, and then with the partnership through the city and through Square Meals, it gave me the opportunity to hire 4 more employees. So now I have a total of 9 employees. So employment was helping directly into the community, the meals directly into the community, and I see like the local community employees. Those are 2 of the top stakeholders within my company.
Cool, thanks. So Tom asked an important question in the chat, and I'm going to kind of mash it with another question that came into me privately about anything you would like to share with us about awareness, help raise our awareness around how systemic racism has affected the business climate for you, and then how we as allies could help turn this sort of moment of interest into something, really long-term sustainable for you and the people you're opening doors for.
I know we've seen this with, right after, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, we were getting, dozens of phone calls, emails a day saying, how can we help? We know there is a problem in the system. But if I'm going to drink beer, I want to help to help you to create diversity in an industry. And what we did was we collected a lot of donations because of, again, we're only distributing here in Connecticut, but we were able to give to Black Lives Matter. We were a portion of the proceeds. We were able to donate 6 cases of beer to all of our frontline heroes. So it was like, you know, you have the COVID, you have this, you know, racial, everything is coming together, but you're seeing people of all colors, races, genders who want to say, how do we stop this? And how do we stop it is by supporting. And that I think that's the thing. When you're in an industry, people can look at someone coming in as a threat. And I tell people there's you know, so much to go around. There's wealth, plenty of wealth that can be distributed. So when you see someone that brings a little bit more spice or color into an industry, don't look at it as a threat. Look at it as, I'm going to be bringing you more people that you would not even have access to develop and, you know, maybe buy your products. So I think if people started thinking and their mindset was like that, you get me in the beer game, I'm going to bring you some folks who would have never walked in your door. And so, you know, it just, and it's right. Someone just said, it's not, you know, we want it to be normal. I want like 1,000 Alisas running around in a beer garden. I want, seriously, I want like a lot of me's like in this industry in 2018, you know, making history as the first of something in a huge industry here in New England was just like, that was just in 2018. So I'm hoping moving forward now we can have those conversations, but it really, honestly, don't look at us as a threat. Look at embracing us, because then we create a whole new division and demographic for you out there. So, you know, I think people should be pushing that, you know, a lot more, because I think that's where the divide, you know, comes in. But I see it on different scales, you know, in the industry. So, but I just govern myself accordingly.
Well, we say in the, you know, capitalist world that every time you spend money, you are casting a vote for the kind of world you want, right? And that's literally the democracy of consumerism. And really what we're here to do is just to promote the diversity of the business community. And this is, by the way, is part of a series, an ongoing series that we will do. This is not just a drive-by today. We have a few other events program coming up over the summer where we're talking about the different challenges of minority-faced businesses and really spotlighting the success stories, because we're here to showcase you guys as role models within your community. And it's been great to hear your story today and hear anyone in the chat room. I know Will had a good point to say.
Yeah, we have some very nice, very nice comments and support running through the chat. Just wanted to toss it back to Ricky about the sort of innovations you see down the pike, or responding to, you know, what we were just talking about. I'd love to have the group here aware of your work in progress, shall we say, that we talked about before we started.
Yeah, I think what I've always found that was interesting with me is, and what people have always told me, or what I've always heard that somebody else was saying about when it comes to the Rib Shack, they'll be out of business in a year, or they'll be out of business in 2 years. You know, early on within my first year, you know, I've been in business 7 years from the food truck, and I've been living in New Haven 7 years. You know, and I do a lot of reflecting, and I think back, you know, having conversations, and it's almost normalized that a business isn't going to be successful. And then I think sometimes when you're a minority, Black, brown, it's almost like a double. Oh, they're definitely not going to be successful past a year. But I think if we kind of continue, like realistically on the ground floor, there's a lot of people who want to do a lot of great things. I mean, it's a lot of people who have problems like actually putting those great things together and executing on them. But that don't mean that it can't be done. But I think it's also a balance to where folks need to stick with it and overcome obstacles and adversity, and don't just take somebody saying that, oh, you're not going to be successful, or you're not going to be last past a year, or the business will be closed in 2 years, because that might not be the case. I mean, it's a lot of things that you learn along the way. And so if you have people that are in positions that can actually unlock certain doors, because, when you get to certain parts of your business, I mean, in order to get to that next step, you almost need somebody to kind of almost help you, mentor you, bring you along, expose you to new things, provide more information. And but if it's people who are considered to be those gatekeepers, and they're not, providing information or helping people out, or but I mean, if you got a brand or a business that you're already kind of got established, Alisa has a nice her brand, her beer brand. Somebody like myself, I got a barbecue business. So I mean, I look at down the pipeline, when it comes to like what's my limit? Like, okay, I'm almost kind of in the same position as if I was in the food truck. Like, okay, do I want to just be a food truck, or do I want to just have one location? Because I look at somebody like a Chipotle that's trading for $1,000 plus on the stock exchange, and a lot of these bigger brands who's trading real high on the stock exchange. But now, if I'm able to kind of scale the business up, and one of the things I had an idea on is if I had a rib shack distribution center, to where that's where all of the meats and sides would be smoked at, prepped at. And I'd have a staff that's what they do. They come in and just prep. And then we have a distribution channel to where we can distribute the products from the distribution center to each location. And at each storefront, the only thing that they would do is, refrigerate, reheat, hot holding, and serve to the customer, so you can turn customers over a lot faster. And on top of that, it also, continues product consistency, improves product efficiency, and everything. So it doesn't matter if you go to the Rib Shack on Winchester or the Rib Shack up in Hartford or in Bridgeport, all of the product is still the same and consistent. And that's what the customer want, and that's what the consumer want.
Yeah.
What's next for you, Alisa?
Well, I will tell you what's next for the whole Rhythm brand. We literally are right now going for that national distribution. We know that there's a now demand. We always say, move over, king of beers. There's the queen of beer in town. We need some shelf space in the country. And so we're really continuing grassroots, because that's what it's all about. The doors are opening, and that's great. We love that. We get excited about that. But at the end of the day, I still have work to do. I always say, this is bigger than me in a can of beer. It's not just about me and my 6-pack, my babies that I love dearly. This is great. What's in here I'm very proud of, but it's not the whole mission, to be honest with you. I've got a lot more work to do. And until I can get this brand out with the story and get more people involved and make a significant change, then I'm still going to keep, again, I'll be here dancing and brewing beer, but big things. Our ShopRite accounts are up. We're really excited about that. We're in Big Y. Just got our blue in the Trader Joe's. So we're in the big brands, but then don't forget to go support the mom and pop, the bodegas, the places, the Wine Thief, wherever you go, buy your spirits. you know, just we're hitting all levels, but we really want to be that brand that was known, that we broke out of the mold and we gave the country and gave America a new rhythm and let them find their new taste. Because after all of this is said and done, I don't think anyone wants to go back to what was, you know, we want to go back to kind of normal, but with racism, we don't want to go backwards. We want to, what we're moving towards now, being conscious as people, and people identifying and saying, okay, Black people aren't, that is disparaging. Why is there only one female and one African-American brewer in the state of Connecticut? And there's 178 breweries. So we want those kind of conversations. We don't want to go back to a lot of old stuff. We want to continue to build on some really beautiful, you know, new things that are, you know, in sight. And I love some of the comments. People are going, it should be normal. I think Will said it should be normal, you know, to have these, you know, to have more minority businesses. You know, Tom is like, yes, we should have these conversations. Gavin, you know, was like, yeah, what is next? Because I think everybody should be really energized right now to make a conscious change collectively, and that goes for all of us. So I just always ask people, continue to pray for me as I go on this wild, crazy beer road, and and always.
I don't know. I think, Alisa, we could probably do more than that. We could probably just buy the stuff, but you know,
we're all hungry and thirsty now, right?
I've got brew. Ricky's got.
We're getting to
ribs, I've got beer, so yes.
Yeah, I know. What a great combo. And listen, we're getting to the top of the hour, so I just wanted to kind of wrap it up today and thank you all for coming, particularly our guests today who have just been phenomenal in the way they've articulated their vision and really demonstrated success. And we applaud your success and will continue to support you. I also want to take just a quick clip. Next week. We have got 3 wonderful women who have just published this awesome book that I was lucky enough to receive a while back. Alison Holzer, who happens to be on the board of Conscious Capitalism, and 2 of her co-workers, Jen Grace Barron and Sandy Spataro, are just the most wonderful woman group that have got this really deep roots of inspiration, and is, I think, much in need at present. You know, I don't know about you, but my days just sort of roll into others. So I'm really excited to have this group here this time next week. And then, of course, the following week features a very interesting sort of food and beverage related business called Grayston Bakery, who are down in Yonkers. I was down there shooting a video yesterday. They are practitioners of this recruiting called open hiring, where they really don't look at your resume and your past experience. They just look at your future rather than your past. They've built a tremendous brand for the last 40 years, servicing some major retailers, Ben & Jerry's, Whole Foods, and so on. So they've got a tremendous business, and it's based on this open hiring concept. And Gavin and I have decided that we're going to help them overcome some of the myths around open hiring, particularly as it supports and leans into the racial equity issues that we're all dealing with now. So we look forward to seeing you next week and the week after, dealing with that. So thank you all for coming today, and see you next week.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Keep up the great work.
Reach out at any point.
All right, bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.